Hello, dear listeners. Today we are about to embark on a very interesting journey. It's a journey about two things that modern people crave, most yet find hardest to obtain: true rest and unshakable hope. In 2025, we are living in the most convenient era in human history. With just a smartphone, we can connect to the entire world. Artificial intelligence helps with our daily lives, and advances in medicine continue to extend our average lifespan. Yet strangely, people are becoming increasingly tired, anxious, and express feelings of despair. According to the World Health Organization, approximately 26% of adults worldwide experience burnout syndrome. Korea's situation is even more serious, consistently maintaining one of the highest suicide rates among OECD countries. This is not merely a statistic, it's the real story of people around us. To add a somewhat cynical perspective here, modern society operates a system that sells well-being and healing as commodities while simultaneously making people more exhausted. When we turn on our smartphones to download a meditation app, hundreds of notifications shatter our peace. We live in the paradox of having to work harder to afford vacations and needing to earn money to rest. Philosopher Bernard Stiegler explained this phenomenon as the destruction of temporal consciousness. Modern technological civilization fragments our attention and makes genuine experience and reflection impossible. We are constantly stimulated, reactive, and consuming, but we're losing the capacity to rest deeply or cultivate meaningful hope. However, there are not entirely without answers to this problem. For thousands of years, humanity has grappled with similar concerns and strived to find solutions. Particularly, the concepts of rest and hope in the Christian tradition offer surprisingly accurate diagnosis and solutions to modern problems. Through this audiobook, we will explore not just religious comfort, but the principles of true rest and hope that can be verified from scientific and philosophical perspectives. In an era where neuroscience proves the effects of meditation, psychology analyzes the mechanisms of hope, and sociology points out the limitations of modern civilization, we will discover new insights where ancient wisdom meets modern scholarship. Chapter 1: Modern Society's Misconceptions About Rest. Let's examine the concept of rest that modern people hold. For most people, rest means time when they're not working, essentially cessation of labor. During weekends or vacation seasons, people travel, engage in hobbies, sleep, or watch dramas to pass time. This is the standard concept of rest in our era. But something strange happens. People who return from vacation say, the vacation was more tiring. Even after resting well at home over the weekend, Monday morning feels heavier. Despite installing meditation apps, taking yoga classes, and visiting spas, the fundamental fatigue doesn't disappear. According to sociologist Hartmut Rosa's theory of resonance, modern people's fatigue is not simply physical fatigue, but existential fatigue arising from the absence of meaningful relationships. We fail to deeply resonate with the world and only repeat superficial interactions, unable to achieve genuine satisfaction. To add a somewhat cynical perspective here, the modern healing industry commodifies this fatigue rather than truly healing it. It demands more consumption from tired people and provides more choices, actually causing greater fatigue. We become tired just choosing what to watch on Netflix. Neurologically, the modern brain faces the problem of attention surplus. Exposed to countless information and stimuli throughout the day, the brain's prefrontal cortex is constantly forced to distribute attention and make choices. In this state, even with physical rest, the brain continues operating, making true rest impossible. Stanford neuroscientist Antonio Damasio explained, True rest is not simply stopping activities, but allowing the brain to regain its natural rhythm. Our brains are supposed to spend a certain portion of the day in what's called the default mode network, but modern lifestyles disrupt this natural rhythm. A more serious problem is that modern people view rest from the perspective of performance or efficiency. The mindset that we must rest better to work better reduces even rest to a tool of productivity. This is like saying we sleep in order to be more awake tomorrow. The means and ends have been reversed. Philosopher Joseph Pieper anticipated this problem as early as 1948 in Leisure, the Basis of Culture. He diagnosed that modern civilization lost the true meaning of leisure by becoming a labor-centered society. In ancient Greece, Shoal was not mere rest, but a noble activity of contemplating truth and cultivating character. But in modern times, leisure has been reduced to a secondary function of reproducing labor power. In this situation, people seek more extreme methods. Digital detox, extreme travel, and expensive wellness programs are gaining popularity. However, these methods still don't escape the category of doing something. True rest relates not to doing but to being, yet modern people have forgotten how to exist. Psychologist Erich Fromm explained this as the difference between having mode and being mode. In having mode, everything is viewed from the perspective of possession and achievement, so even rest becomes something to have or achieve. In contrast, being mode finds meaning and satisfaction in simply existing. So how can we escape these misconceptions? The answer might be surprisingly simple. We need a shift in perspective to view rest not as something to obtain, but as a gift already given. Chapter 2: Philosophical and Scientific Understanding of Rest. To properly understand the concept of rest, we first need philosophical reflection on time. Ancient Greek philosophers distinguished two types of time. Chronos is quantitative, continuous time, physical time that can be measured by clocks. In contrast, kairos is qualitative, meaningful time, special moments, or appropriate times. The problem of modern people is being trapped only in chronos and failing to experience kairos. We try to manage time, use it efficiently, and save it, but we miss meaningful moments. True rest begins with the transition from chronos to kairos, a change in perception of time. Neurologically, very interesting things happen in our brains during states of rest. The default mode network, discovered by Dr. Marcus Reichel at Washington University, is a brain network activated when we're not focused on specific tasks. When this network operates, we engage in self-reflection, organize memories, and think creatively. Interestingly, this default mode network shows special patterns during contemplative activities like meditation or prayer. Harvard University's Dr. Sarah Lazar's research team discovered that after 8 weeks of meditation training, the brain's hippocampus and prefrontal cortex areas physically thickened. To add a somewhat cynical perspective here, the modern mindfulness boom commercially exploits these scientific discoveries. Scientifically proven meditation apps spring up everywhere, but they may be far from true contemplation or inner stillness. Learning meditation through an app is already paradoxical in itself. Philosophically, one of the thinkers who most deeply explored the concept of rest was German philosopher Martin Heidegger. Heidegger criticized modern civilization for being obsessed with beings rather than being, with entities rather than existence itself. We constantly try to do, have, and achieve something, but we don't think about the meaning of existence itself. In Heidegger's terms, modern people are trapped in a state of care. This isn't simple worry, but an existential state of missing the present through anxiety about the future and regret about the past. Rest is escaping from this care and recovering the authentic way of being as Dasein. Similar insights can be found in Eastern philosophy. Zhuangzi's concept of wu wei refers to a natural state of not forcing anything. This isn't laziness or inaction, but the wisdom of taking appropriate action at appropriate times according to nature's rhythm. Just as quantum mechanics tells us that vacuum is actually full of tremendous energy, the state of wu wei is not powerlessness, but a state pregnant with infinite possibilities. Psychologically, Csikszentmihalyi's theory of flow provides insights related to rest. In flow states, self-consciousness disappears, time perception changes, and action and consciousness become one. This shows one aspect of rest. True rest is not simply doing nothing, but being completely present. Biologically, all living organisms have circadian rhythms. These are biological rhythms that repeat approximately every 24 hours, regulating sleep and wakefulness, body temperature changes, and hormone secretion. Modern 24-hour society and artificial lighting disrupt these natural rhythms. The secretion patterns of melatonin and cortisol are particularly important. Under normal circumstances, melatonin should increase in the evening and cortisol should increase in the morning. However, smartphone blue light and irregular lifestyle patterns disrupt this hormonal balance, interfering with true rest. Interestingly, the religious concept of Sabbath remarkably aligns with these scientific discoveries. Regularly changing daily rhythms once a week and having special times of ritual and meditation is a very scientific method of recovering biological rhythms and finding mental balance. Ultimately, true rest is not simple relaxation, but a transformation of the mode of being, a transition from possession to existence, from action to contemplation, from future or past to present. Chapter 3. The Essence of Christian Rest. To understand rest as spoken of in Christianity, we must first examine the concept of Sabbath in Genesis. According to Genesis, God created for 6 days and rested on the seventh day. The important thing here is that God didn't rest because he was tired. Why would an infinite and omnipotent being need to rest? According to Jewish tradition's interpretation, God's rest signifies the completion of the work of creation, a perfect state where nothing more needs to be added, a state of sufficiency. This is the exact opposite of modern people's constant desire for more and trying to achieve more. Shabbat, meaning rest in Hebrew, signifies not simply stopping, but completion or wholeness. This is rest that comes from fullness, not from deficiency. In modern philosophical terms, it's a state of fullness rather than lack. Jesus' words in Matthew 11:28, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest," should be understood in this context. Here, give rest in Greek anapausis doesn't mean simple rest, but receiving new strength. To add a somewhat cynical perspective here, even modern Christianity often understands the Sabbath as superficial Sunday worship attendance or ascetic rule observance, rather than this deep meaning of rest. Even religion is not free from modern society's performance-oriented activism. In the New Testament, Jesus declares himself Lord of the Sabbath. This is a very revolutionary statement. It means the Sabbath is not simply a religious rule, but relates to the relationship between God and humans, and to the essence of existence itself. Hebrews chapter 4 interprets rest as participating in God's rest. This means participating in cosmic and eternal dimensions of peace beyond personal rest. From the perspective of modern physics, we can see the entire universe as one unified energy field, and rest can be said to be a state of harmony with this fundamental energy. Augustine expressed this as, "Our hearts are restless until they find rest in you, Lord." This is not simple religious rhetoric, but a profound insight into the structure of human existence. Humans are finite beings who simultaneously long for the infinite. There is a thirst that can never be satisfied by finite things. Modern psychology's self-actualization need theory provides similar insight. In Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the highest level is self-actualization, which moves beyond individual achievement to the realm of self-transcendence. Recent research shows that the deepest satisfaction and peace are experienced not through fulfilling self-centered desires, but when connected to greater meaning and purpose beyond oneself. Thomas Merton explained this more concretely through the concept of contemplation. Contemplation is not simply thinking or feeling, but the experience of existence itself becoming one with divine reality. This may sound mystical, but it actually has very practical meaning. When we have a contemplative attitude, we accept reality as it is, don't resist, and experience peace. Medieval theologians explain this through the concept of learned ignorance. True wisdom is escaping from the desire to know everything, acknowledging one's limitations, and being humble before mystery. The reason modern people constantly consume information and try to accumulate knowledge, yet fail to gain wisdom, may lie here. Another important characteristic of Christian rest is communality. Unlike personal meditation or healing, the Sabbath is kept together as a community. This shows that rest relates not simply to individual well-being, but to social and cosmic dimensions of harmony. Modern society is extremely individualized. Everyone relieves stress in their own way and seeks their own healing. But true rest cannot be obtained alone. Because we are relational beings, we can only experience complete peace within relationships. Chapter 4. Hope and Despair of Modern People. Analyzing the hope structure of modern people reveals a very interesting paradox. Despite objectively living in the most prosperous and safe era in human history, subjectively, more people are expressing anxiety and despair. According to the World Health Organization, depression is predicted to become the #1 disease burden worldwide by 2030. To understand this phenomenon, we first need philosophical reflection on what hope is. German philosopher Ernst Bloch, in The Principle of Hope, explained hope not as a simple emotion but as the fundamental structure of human existence. Humans are beings open to what is not yet, and this openness is the foundation of hope. However, in modern society, hope has mostly been corrupted into objects of consumption and achievement. Conditional hope like, if I buy a better car, if I reach a higher position, if I earn more money, then I'll be happy. Such hope is inherently unstable. When goals are achieved, new goals appear, and when not achieved, frustration is experienced. To add a somewhat cynical perspective here, the modern advertising industry cleverly manipulates these conditional hopes. By constantly sending messages that your life will change if you buy this product, they make people dissatisfied with their current state. Social media maximizes this by making people compare their ordinary daily lives with others' perfect lives. Psychologist Barry Schwartz diagnosed in The Paradox of Choice that modern people suffer from choice overload. Too many options actually increase anxiety and regret. From choosing jam in a supermarket to deciding life directions, we constantly suffer anxiety that there might be better choices. Sociologist Zygmunt Bauman explained this through the concept of liquid modernity. As traditional communities and institutions dissolved, everything became fluid and unstable. In the past, there were stable reference points like religion, family, and nation. But now individuals are placed in situations where they must decide everything for themselves. In this situation, people show two extreme reactions. One is attempting excessive control. They try to plan, manage, and optimize everything. Self-help books become bestsellers. Life hacking becomes popular, and methods to maximize individual efficiency gain popularity. But this approach ultimately brings only greater stress and fatigue. The other is complete giving up, a resigned attitude that if you don't expect anything, you won't be disappointed. Neurologically, hope and despair are closely related to specific brain regions. The dopamine system is related to expectations of future rewards, but modern instant gratification culture disrupts this system. Frequent dopamine releases from smartphone notifications, social media likes, and online shopping weaken the ability to feel long-term satisfaction and achievement. The balance between the amygdala and prefrontal cortex is also important. Chronic stress and anxiety excessively activate the amygdala and weaken prefrontal cortex function. This reduces rational thinking and long-term planning abilities, while increasing impulsive and emotional reactions. Philosophically, this relates to the death of God situation that Nietzsche foresaw. As traditional value systems and meaning systems collapsed, individuals were placed in situations where they must create meaning themselves. This is freedom, but also a tremendous burden. The existential anxiety that existentialist philosophers spoke of is exactly the phenomenon that appears in such situations. Chapter 5: Psychology and Neuroscience of Hope. Scientific research on hope and expectation began in earnest from the late 20th century. Psychologist Charles Snyder defined hope not as a simple emotion, but as a cognitive process. According to him, hope consists of three elements: goals, pathways, and agency. That is, hope arises when there's a clear destination, knowledge of how to get there, and the will to actually walk that path. However, this psychological definition still doesn't escape the achievement-oriented perspective. If hope can only be maintained by achieving goals, how can we have hope in situations where achievement is impossible? The fact that terminal patients or people who have experienced irreversible loss can still have hope suggests there are deeper dimensions to hope. According to neuroscientific research, hope is a phenomenon where multiple brain regions work together complexly. The prefrontal cortex handles future planning and goal setting. The amygdala regulates emotional responses, and the hippocampus helps predict the future through memory and learning. Interestingly, similar brain regions are activated during spiritual activities like meditation or prayer. According to UCLA neuroscientist Matthew Lieberman's research, positive outlooks about the future activate the brain's reward system, which actually strengthens the immune system and reduces stress hormones. Conversely, despair increases inflammatory responses and raises the risk of various diseases. This shows that hope is not merely psychological comfort, but has important biological functions. To add a somewhat cynical perspective here, the modern positive psychology movement tends to oversimplify these scientific discoveries. Messages like, "If you think positively, everything will work out," can actually distort reality and place additional burdens on suffering people. True hope is not denying reality, but seeing possibilities beyond while accepting reality as it is. In psychology, this is called realistic optimism, an attitude of acknowledging obstacles while finding ways to overcome them. But the more fundamental problem is that most modern hope is conditional. Hope like, "If such and such happens, I'll be happy," or "If such and such becomes, I'll be satisfied," turns to despair when those conditions aren't met. According to psychologist hedonic treadmill theory, humans return to their original satisfaction levels after a certain time, even when external conditions improve. This can be explained from an evolutionary psychology perspective. The human brain evolved in directions favorable to survival and reproduction, so it's programmed to continuously seek better conditions rather than being satisfied with current states. But in modern society, this evolutionary program actually causes chronic dissatisfaction. Neuroplasticity research presents interesting possibilities. The brain can change throughout life, and repetitive thought patterns and behaviors can change the brain's physical structure. That is, training hopeful thinking can actually change the brain to feel hope better. But what's important here is hope for what? If the object of hope keeps changing or is unattainable, it's difficult to gain lasting satisfaction, no matter how much we train the brain. Conversely, if the object of hope is unchanging and certain, that hope can be maintained regardless of external conditions. Here, the concept of longing becomes important. While hope, as spoken of in psychology, mainly stays in personal and psychological dimensions, longing includes more fundamental and existential dimensions. Longing is not simply wanting something, but relates to the directionality of existence itself. German theologian Jürgen Moltmann, in Theology of Hope, explained Christian hope as expectation of the God of the future. This is cosmic and eschatological hope that goes beyond personal achievement or worldly satisfaction. Such hope can be maintained despite present suffering or failure. Neurologically, when having this transcendent longing, the brain's default mode network shows special patterns. Self-centered thinking decreases and regions responsible for connection and meaning are activated. This is similar to patterns that appear during meditation or prayer. Chapter 6: Philosophical Foundations of Eternal Hope. The human longing for eternity is one of the oldest and most universal themes throughout philosophical history. Ancient Greek philosopher Plato explained that the human soul originally came from the world of eternity, so it yearns for eternity even while in time. Modern philosophy no longer accepts this literally, but the insight about the unique structure of human consciousness remains valid. Humans, unlike other animals, can remember the past and imagine the future. Furthermore, they can understand the abstract concept of eternity. This is not merely cognitive ability, but an ontological characteristic. Borrowing Martin Heidegger's expression, humans are beings thrown into temporality, while simultaneously able to transcend time. But this ability is a double-edged sword. Because we can long for eternity, all experiences in time feel incomplete and temporary. No matter how good an experience is, the fact that it has an end prevents it from giving complete satisfaction. What philosophers call metaphysical nostalgia refers exactly to this situation. Existentialist philosopher Kierkegaard analyzed this as the structure of despair. Humans are synthetic beings who are finite yet long for the infinite. When these two aspects aren't properly integrated, despair occurs. Accepting only finitude keeps us in animal life, while pursuing only infinity leads to denying reality. Modern physics discoveries provide new perspectives on time and eternity. According to Einstein's theory of relativity, time is not absolute. The flow of time varies according to the observer's speed and gravitational field. Furthermore, quantum mechanics confirms that the observer's consciousness affects physical reality. This raises new questions about the relationship between time, consciousness, and eternity. If consciousness determines the experience of time, is it possible to experience eternity through changes in consciousness? Indeed, during meditation or flow states, time perception changes dramatically. Hours may feel like minutes, or minutes may feel like eternity. Neuroscientists call this plasticity of time perception. Depending on the brain's state, subjective experience of time can vary greatly. Particularly when default mode network activity decreases, when self-consciousness weakens, the boundaries of time become blurred. But these neuroscientific explanations alone cannot fully explain the longing for eternity. Even if we can experience eternal feelings through brain function, is that true eternity? Or is it simply illusion? To answer this question, we need to clarify the definition of eternity. Philosophically, eternity is distinguished in two ways. One is eternity as infinite time, and the other is eternity that transcends time. The former is a quantitative concept and the latter is qualitative. Neoplatonist philosophers like Plotinus understood eternity in the latter sense. Eternity is not an extension of time, but a reality of a different dimension from time. From this perspective, experiencing eternity is possible in special states of consciousness. Thomas Aquinas developed this more precisely, distinguishing eternity, eviternity, and time. God exists in eternity, angels in eviternity, and material beings in time. Because humans have material bodies yet spiritual souls, they can experience eternity while living in time. Modern philosopher Emmanuel Levinas explained the experience of infinity through the face of the other. When facing another person's face, we experience infinite responsibility that goes beyond ourselves. This is direct, immediate experience of infinity that cannot be captured by conceptual thinking. These philosophical insights suggest that eternal hope is not mere fantasy, but real experience related to the fundamental structure of human existence. Humans are unique beings who live in time yet long for eternity, and who are finite yet can experience infinity. However, this possibility is not automatically realized. Due to the characteristics of modern civilization, we are actually moving away from such profound experiences. Constant stimulation and change fix consciousness to the surface, making deep contemplation or meditation difficult. Chapter 7. Practical integration of rest and hope. So far, we have explored rest and hope theoretically, but in actual life, these two cannot be separated. True rest is possible when there is certain hope, and genuine hope can grow in present peace. Now let's examine how these two can be integrated in actual life. First, a new understanding of time is needed. Modern people think of time as a resource to be managed. This is why concepts like time management, efficiency improvement, and multitasking are popular. But this approach instrumentalizes time and makes humans like machines. Time experience where rest and hope are integrated is completely different. It's experiencing time not as an object of management, but as a space to dwell in. Being completely present in the current moment, while feeling that present is connected to eternal meaning. To add a somewhat cynical perspective here, the mindfulness boom that says focus on the present also sometimes instrumentalizes time in another way. There's often an underlying purpose of achieving better results and living more effectively through present focus. True present experience is simply being here and now without purpose. Practically, recovering daily rhythms is important. Modern society demands activity at the same intensity 24 hours a day, but human bodies and minds have natural periodicity. There are rhythms of concentration and relaxation during the day, and rhythms of activity and rest during the week. According to biological clock research, human alertness naturally rises and falls at specific times during the day. Afternoon drowsiness around 2 to 4 p.m. or evening fatigue are not laziness, but natural biological phenomena. When we don't resist these rhythms, but adapt to them, we can experience deeper rest and more sustained energy. Applying the concept of Sabbath in modern ways is also helpful. This doesn't necessarily mean religious rituals. It means regularly setting aside one day a week or certain hours, and during that time only, engaging in activities unrelated to productivity or efficiency. Time for simply existing, observing, and being grateful. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi's flow theory also provides important insights here. In flow states, time perception changes, self-consciousness disappears, and the activity itself becomes the reward. This can be seen as a kind of active meditation state. The important thing is finding activities that enable flow and having such experiences regularly. But flow alone is not enough. The object of flow must be meaningful and sustainable. We can flow in games or shopping, but such flow is temporary and sometimes addictive. In contrast, creative activities, nature observation, deep conversations, and volunteer work enable healthier and more sustained flow. The relational dimension cannot be left out. Because humans are relational beings, true rest and hope cannot be complete through isolated individual experience alone. Deep human relationships, community participation, and social contribution make personal rest richer. In modern society, even human relationships are often instrumentalized under the name of networking. But true relationships are based on mutual respect and love, not mutual use. The connection experienced in such relationships provides greater hope and meaning beyond personal dimensions. Spiritual practices like meditation or prayer also play important roles. These are effective methods of leading consciousness to deeper dimensions regardless of religious beliefs. Regular meditation regulates the brain's default mode network, improves attention, and enhances emotional balance. But meditation shouldn't be approached only technically. It should be understood not as a tool for better performance, but as a method of exploring the depth of existence. The purpose of meditation is not to obtain something, but to discover what's already there. Chapter 8. Christian Alternative to Modern Civilization. If we were to summarize the fundamental characteristic of modern civilization in one word, it would be acceleration. The pace of technological development, information circulation, and lifestyle changes exceeds the limits of human adaptation. German sociologist Hartmut Rosa analyzed this through the concept of social acceleration, diagnosing that the fundamental cause of alienation and meaninglessness felt by modern people lies here. In this situation, the Christian concepts of rest and hope carry meaning not as simple religious comfort, but as civilization-critical alternatives. Christianity has an essentially countercultural character. It raises fundamental questions about worldly values and ways of life, showing that different ways of living are possible. The core of the modern economic system is endless growth. GDP must continue increasing, companies must make more profit each quarter, and individuals must consume more. But is infinite growth possible on a finite Earth? Climate change, resource depletion, and ecosystem destruction already show the limits of this growth model. To add a somewhat cynical perspective here, even the concept of sustainable development is sometimes used as a way to pretend environmental responsibility while not abandoning the growth model. True sustainability may require fundamental reconsideration of growth itself. The Christian concept of rest is very radical in this context. The Sabbath is a time to stop production, cease the desire to increase possessions, and give thanks for what's already given. This directly opposes growth-centered economic logic. If everyone regularly observed rest, the current economic system would be unsustainable. The Sabbath year and Jubilee systems in the Old Testament present even more concrete alternatives. Systems of letting the land rest every 7 years and every 50 years, forgiving all debts and returning land to original owners. These are systems that prevent wealth concentration, promote nature's recovery, and maintain social equality. Of course, applying these systems directly to modern society is difficult, but their spirit remains valid, because they present a vision that it's possible to control the desire for infinite accumulation, maintain social balance through regular redistribution, and live in harmony with nature. Another problem of modern technological civilization is fragmentation of relationships. We're said to be connected to more people through social media, but actually it's become harder to form deeper relationships. In a world where everything is datafied and manipulated by algorithms, is genuine encounter and communication possible? The Christian concept of community presents an alternative to this. The church is not simply a gathering of people with the same beliefs, but a new form of community where different people become one in Christ. Here, all people are accepted as equal beings regardless of social status or economic ability. However, real churches don't always realize this ideal. Sometimes they become exclusive and authoritarian, contaminated by secular values. This shows human limitations rather than problems with religion itself. The important thing is not creating perfect community, but continuously moving toward better community. Another characteristic of modern civilization is immediacy. We try to get everything instantly, solve everything instantly, and satisfy everything instantly. Internet, fast food, same-day delivery symbolize this immediacy culture. But truly valuable things take time. Character maturation, deep relationships, and meaningful achievements all require waiting and patience. Christian hope is a fundamental challenge to this immediacy culture. Christian hope is expectation of God's kingdom that has not yet come. This means acknowledging present imperfection while living with confidence in a better future. Such hope creates temporal consciousness, completely opposite to consumer culture that pursues immediate satisfaction. Christian approaches to environmental issues are also important. According to creation theology, humans are not masters of nature, but stewards. It's a perspective that sees nature not as an object of exploitation, but as a gift to be cared for. This can provide fundamental answers to current environmental crises. But to add a cynical perspective here too, in Christian history, nature domination ideas have sometimes been used to justify environmental destruction. The important thing is recovering the true message of Scripture and reinterpreting it anew in modern contexts. Conclusion. Toward a new life paradigm. Our journey is now nearing its end. We have explored the fundamental causes of modern people's fatigue and anxiety and examined true rest and unshakable hope from philosophical, scientific, and theological perspectives. Now, it's time to synthesize all this and present a new paradigm applicable to actual life. First, what we confirmed is the fundamental contradiction of modern civilization. While materially prosperous, we've become spiritually poorer. While technologically connected, we've become humanly more isolated. While information overflows, wisdom is lacking. This contradiction is a structural problem that cannot be overcome by individual willpower or technological solutions alone. But there's no need to despair. Humanity has experienced such turning points several times in history and has always found new ways of living. The current crisis can also become an opportunity to move toward new possibilities. The important thing is accurately diagnosing the problem and finding fundamental alternatives. We confirmed that true rest is not simply resting, but a transformation of the mode of being. A transition from possession to existence, from action to contemplation, from achievement to gratitude. This is not temporary rest, but changing the fundamental attitude toward life. Likewise, we examined that true hope is not conditional expectation, but unconditional conviction. It's not that we can hope when conditions improve, but hope itself has the power to change conditions. Such hope is possible when connected to cosmic and eternal dimensions beyond personal achievement. To add a final cynical perspective here, living such an ideal life is by no means easy. Modern society's systems continuously try to pull us into the logic of consumption and competition. Social media stimulates desires for comparison and showing off. Advertising instigates feelings of deficiency, and workplaces demand endless performance. But precisely because of such situations, true rest and hope are needed even more. Though it's difficult to walk this path alone, it's possible if we find companions to walk together. We can create communities with similar values, encourage each other, and experiment with alternative ways of life. Practically, We can start with small things. Spending a certain time each day without smartphones, spending one day a week with special rituals, regularly communing with nature, investing more time and energy in meaningful relationships, etc. The important thing is not approaching these practices as simple life-hacking techniques. They should be approached not as tools for more efficient and successful life, but as methods of rediscovering the meaning and direction of existence itself. Also, such changes shouldn't remain at the personal level. Social and structural changes are also needed. We must also participate in creating more humane education systems, more sustainable economic models, and more equal social structures. Science and technology are not enemies either. Neuroscience proves meditation's effects. Psychology reveals conditions of happiness. And ecology shows the importance of harmonious life with nature. The important thing is using technology for humans and nature. Ultimately, a new understanding of time is needed, not viewing time as a resource to manage and use efficiently, but accepting it as a gift where meaning and relationships can be experienced. An integrated temporal consciousness that gives thanks for the past, lives the present faithfully, and holds hope for the future. Finally, the foundation of all this is love. Love for oneself, love for others, love for nature, and ultimately, love for existence itself. When such love exists, true rest becomes possible, and we can have unshakable hope. Let me conclude our journey with scripture. In Psalm 46:10, God says, "Be still and know that I am God." Being still doesn't mean being powerless. It means letting go of anxiety and impatience, trusting greater reality, and dwelling in peace. This is exactly the eternal rest we've been seeking and the foundation of unshakable hope. Thank you so much for being able to take this long journey together. It was a journey through the dark tunnel of modern people's fatigue and anxiety to discover the light of true rest and eternal hope. I hope this audiobook brings even small changes to your lives. I hope it helps you live more peaceful and meaningful lives. I would like to meet you again with such profound topics in the future. If this content was helpful, please support us with subscriptions and likes, and recommend it to people around you. I pray that true rest and unshakable hope will be with all of you. Thank you.